Now, I had to look this up because I had no idea what Soubise was. You know, I it sounded like a girl with a big back. I don't know, Soubise. That's silly. Don't listen to me. I mean, listen, but don't listen to me. Hello, Governor. This is Rakai Steve from the Ville. And today I'm just going to cut through all the noise and get to the heart of something profound. Love. Now I'm going to ask the question that haunts so many of us as we deal with complex family dynamics. When you look back at all the chaos and all the struggle, is anyone in your dysfunctional family even capable of that type of love? Now, that question can feel suffocating, and it's buried under layers of pain and confusion, and maybe even family secrets. But what if the answer isn't as complicated as we make it? What if the key to unlocking that understanding, or even find healing, lies in embracing the brilliance of simplicity? Let me tell you a story. I've had the distinct pleasure, or travesty, of being married twice. Now divorced twice. And one of the things I knew going into each marriage was that I brought a lot of baggage, family trauma, into each one of those relationships. But I thought I knew that I was stronger than that trauma. But what happens when you take your trauma and mix it with somebody else's trauma? And you think that you're strong enough to deal with your trauma, which maybe you are, maybe you lying to yourself. But now you mix it with someone else's trauma. And maybe it's a trauma that they're not strong enough to deal with. So it's nice to have some support. But as you are holding your trauma up, and now you holding somebody else's trauma up, you see that they not trying to hold either one of them traumas. And now you're being crushed under both. The one thing I was afraid of was I capable of the type of love that my partner needed from me? And I honestly thought that I was. I was afraid that I was going to bring in what was in my DNA from my father. But it really didn't seem like he loved anyone but himself. The one thing that I did know was, even if I was afraid of the toxicity and what I felt that my father brought to the table, I was secure in what I thought my mother brought to the table. And even though she has her own dysfunctional family and their own set of things that are locked in her DNA as well, I knew that even though I wasn't enough for whatever reason for both of my wives, when my kids were born, I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I was capable of that love. There was nothing on God's green earth more important to me than my kids. I still worried though. You know, when my parents were married, my dad was non-existent. He didn't give a shit about me or my brother. And he made up for it by having money and buying thinking he was buying our way into a heart, even though he was emotionally, verbally, and physically abusive. So he threw money at it. Where my mom was there. She picked up the pieces. She was 100% emotionally involved. But when they got a divorce, the dynamic changed. Because my dad didn't have the yin to his yang anymore. And he didn't even throw money at it anymore. I don't know if he even cared anymore. And now my mom had zero money. She had all the patience and all the consideration and love in the world. But are either one of those things enough? So I worried about that with my kids when I got divorced. I was like, okay, well, I can be here emotionally and I'm broke as shit. It happens. So even though I know I'm capable of that love, I'm still looking for the ways to deal with it in the most simplistic manner ever. Let's talk about it. Hello, Governor. This is Rakai Steve, new from the Ville, and we're here to talk about The Bear, Season 4, Episode 2, Soubise. Now, this episode is named after a deceptively simple but elegant sauce, and it mirrors the very essence of our discussion. Now, I'm going to explore how Carmy's agonizing question about love and his chaotic family connects directly to the profound power of simplicity and just sometimes simplifying our expectations, our processes, and even our emotional truths. We're going to strip away all the complex layers of family history and personal struggle and discover how sometimes focusing on the purest, most fundamental elements can reveal the clearest path to understanding love, forgiveness, and ultimately building healthier connections. So think about it for a second, and I want you to put it in the comments. Does genuine, healthy love even exist? Does it? Now, if it does exist, do you think it could have existed in a dysfunctional, chaotic, or even abusive family system? Drop it in the comments. What do you think? And try to do better than give me a yes or no. I'll take a yes or no. I'll take it. But give me a little bit more than that. The thing about that type of environment is that it can breed inherited patterns, emotional scars, and a very warped definition of love. I don't know about your family, but I've definitely seen it on both sides of my family, from my mother and father's side of the family, as well as, a warped definition of love inside what was my immediate family before the divorce. Sis, with an S. Damn. Now, in this episode, we're going to deal with 3 different things. So you got Carmy's direct confrontation. We're going to talk about the weight of his family history and how to define love a little bit differently. Now, this question was posed to Carmy. Is anyone in his family even capable of that kind of love? And I don't know, for whatever reason, that question stuck out to me. Because when it was asked in the episode, I immediately reflected and I was like, well, damn. His family's jacked up, but shit, so is mine. is anybody in my family even capable of that type of love, including me? Now, even though in the episode we're seeing Carmy's internal monologue or what have you, and kind of getting a glimpse into what his mind is thinking, in real life, for you and I, usually that comes from a therapist sitting on someone's couch. Now, it may come from someone at your church or someone who's trying to help you. Hopefully, they're trying to be a helper. There are a lot of people you think are trying to help you and they just trying to be in your damn business. So that you can't go sharing all your thoughts and all that with everybody. They out here running their mouth telling you your shit or whatever. So I don't do it. Listen, I told a few people who were like therapists to me in church positions, and then I told my actual therapist. Me and my therapist, we've been rocking 6 years strong, and I actually need a new therapist now. But you know, it's hard sometimes dealing with these type of things when you have this deep-seated emotional baggage. Now, as we're looking at Carmy's family, the Berzatto family, we can see the chaos and the trauma and these aggressive dynamics between everyone in the family and everyone damn near associated with this family. Now, we are 3 seasons in the beginning of this 4th season, and you can see that right now we are reinforcing the context, and it makes you wonder, with everything you've already seen, is anybody in this family capable of that type of love? Now, ask yourself this question. In your own family, what was your definition of love? How was the way that you were raised, the environment that you were raised in, how did that help you form your definition of love? Did that include tough love? Did that include love that's intertwined with control? How about chaotic expressions of care? Or was all love in your family simply overshadowed by trauma? Think about your own upbringing. And was love in all of its purest forms absent? Or was it simply obscured? Now, you know that I love my quotes, and today I have 2. Now, the first one, I love it. It comes from a psychotherapist named Sharon P. And on Instagram, her tag is @SitWithSharon. And she says, growing up in a dysfunctional family conditions us to believe that what we experienced in our family is normal in relationships, including constant fighting and invalidation. We see red flags as opportunities to try harder to make the relationship work. Listen. And the second quote comes from one of my favorite people ever, Bruce Lee. And he said, simplicity is the key to brilliance. And because I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, I'm going to explain what that means right here, right now. He's saying that complex problems can be solved with elegant, straightforward solutions rather than convoluted ones. And I am going to call this media therapy deep dive capable of that love. You know, you've heard me talk about the potter's wheel before. And a lot of times we think that true mastery, clarity, breakthrough comes from adding complexity, adding more components. But sometimes you get to that in the simplicity of brilliance, or the brilliance of simplicity, where you strip away things and you strip them down to their essential, fundamental core. Perfect the basics, cut through the noise, find elegance in those straightforward solutions. And the thing is, I know that we're talking about a restaurant, we're talking about the bear, but it's not just in the culinary arts. This can be applied to business. This can be applied to your personal being. Now, I had to look this up, because I had no idea what Soubise was. You know, I it sounded like a girl with a big back. I don't know, Soubise. That's silly. Don't listen to me. I mean, listen, but don't listen to me. I didn't know what that was. It's a culinary term. And it's an onion sauce. Ugh. Nasty. But it's very simple in its ingredients. It requires incredible patience, precision, and focus on fundamental techniques. And you do this kind of like slow caramelization to achieve a rich, elegant flavor. This mirrors the need for clarity and careful execution in life. Now that sounds wonderful. I don't know if I would ever want to try some onion soup, onion sauce. Sounds nasty. Now, if you brought me some Soubise, I'd maybe try it, because you told me that it's Soubise. I don't know what that is. If you told me it's onion sauce, I'd be like, hell no. And maybe that's the beauty of the simplicity of it all. My mind is already made up in the complexity of components, the things I don't like. Once you strip it away and you do what's needed to it, it's beautiful. I'm assuming. Now in this show, because of last episode, we see that they got a clock. They're on the clock. So at this point, they're bleeding money, and they're trying to strip away and simplify some of the processes, reduce the waste, and refine a dish by removing unnecessary elements. I think Sid went to Carmy and said that most plates have at least 5 components in them. But we can not be super fancy, but we can give them a great dining experience if we strip it back to 3. And then he later has a phone call with Suge where she tells him, no, we only doing 2 because that's where the cost dictates what we need to do. They still want an excellent outcome, but they have to become more efficient in getting there. Eliminating complexity can get the brilliance. So now you're gonna ask yourself, okay, it's a great little episode and they talked about onion soup or sauce or some shit. What does that have to do with me? How do we get to the emotional breakdown? What does that even got to do with being capable of that love? Sometimes you need to simplify your expectations of love. Have you ever thought about what your definition of love even is? You know, we learned that, and for the last 2 seasons, Carmy hasn't looked happy. How do you do something that you have so much passion for and not look happy doing it? He seems miserable each and every day. And now the worst nightmare, he put everything, all his resources, all his chips, he pushed all in to open the bear. And now they have less than 2 months before it's all taken away. But does that even matter if you looked unhappy doing it? Sometimes we need to learn to define love to be less complicated, less demanding, less traumatic. And then recognize that even this presence in our flawed past, that maybe in our present, we want to nurture simpler, healthier forms of love. I'm just saying. When you're dealing with a dysfunctional family, sometimes it's hard to just cut through the noise. You know, your emotions are all tangled up. You know, it's very similar to when I've talked to people about separating the art from the artist. Should you still listen to R. Kelly music? R. Kelly might have been the soundtrack to a lot of great moments in your life. Your graduation, you know, first time you met your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. First dance you had at your wedding. And then all this stuff came out about his personal life, And he was like, oh, this dude is trash. But what do you do with all the memories that were made on the backs of that music? Your memories, your love, it's tangled there. And that's the same thing that we have for a lot of family. Your emotions are tangled up with them. Sometimes you're the family. Sometimes you love them. You may not like them, but sometimes you love them. But maybe some of them are trash ass people. Simplicity means that you identify your core feelings. Communicate your needs directly. Why do you even need to still be fooling with these people? And you focus on one small step at a time towards healing, rather than overwhelming yourself with your entire traumatic history. It's one foot in front of the other, one day at a time. Now, just like you can take a dish that's very complex and strip it back to simplify it to its perfect essence, like that Soubise. Sometimes to understand family dynamics simply means to simplify the narrative to a few core truths about love's capacity, instead of getting caught up in every single detail and intricate wound. Love is about basic care. Sometimes love isn't about grand gestures. Grand gestures can seem more like a Hail Mary, last-ditch effort. Love is consistent, simple acts of kindness and presence. This episode really kind of looked at focusing on these fundamental, simple expressions of care, because those actually go a very long way. You know, as we try to understand, navigate, and heal from these complex emotional landscapes in our lives, ask yourself, how does your definition of love play into that? Maybe you, just like me, is guilty of dwelling on the past and the dysfunction that my family played into how I define love. And maybe in order for you to cultivate the new love that you're trying to, maybe you just gotta strip it all back and make it simple. This is Rakai Steve, new from the Ville. Make sure that you, again, comment. Tell me, what did you think about this? The brilliance of simplicity. Are you capable of that love? Is anybody in your family? Comment on my new process, on the last 2 or 3 deep dives I've given. Tell me what you think about the process. Are you liking this new process? Or what do you like? What do you not like? Make sure that you share this, like the video. And for whatever reason, if you haven't subscribed, go ahead, hit the button, subscribe. It's no big deal. Go back and watch the videos and find something that might resonate with you. Remember, everything I watch, I use this, but it's even more important to use this.